There is one game that I didn't know existed outside of the Switch. A quick Google search would have revealed that, yes, it is in fact available on Xbox Game Pass. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you had a fantastic Christmas. If you celebrated, of course. If you didn't, and you did something else, you celebrated something else, then I hope you had a fantastic weekend in whatever you were doing. We celebrate Christmas in this house, and unfortunately my wife was called into work Christmas Eve morning, so I was left to my own devices. And I know what you're thinking, I know what he got up to. You're wrong, I did that on Tuesday. So I had a coffee and I was sat there looking at the sales because they'd started early on some websites, and I was scrolling through and I saw an advert for Game Pass. Didn't think anything of it because I see that like all the time. And then the next advert I saw for Game Pass, it was offering it for £1 for the first month if you've never signed up to it before. So it kind of got me half intrigued, and I kind of kept it in the back of my mind. And then when I saw it for the third time in 10 minutes, I thought, wow, they're pumping out the money for advertising, but also, let's go download it. The sales hadn't really started everywhere. I thought I'll have a proper look, maybe Christmas Day in the afternoon or something when they actually start properly. But for now, let's grab the Xbox, let's go downstairs on the big TV. Not that I'm going to get the benefit with my Xbox, because it is the original Xbox One. We do need to upgrade that in the Trading Game Collection series. If you haven't watched that, by the way, all of the stuff that you see behind me was acquired for absolutely nothing via that series. The playlist is in the description. So I go downstairs, I plug it all in, and I do about 25 updates, 26 updates. That happens, and then I finally get onto Game Pass. And I've never been on there before. I've never done it. I've never looked at it. I had the Xbox One when it came out in 2014. I only ever really played FIFA and a few other, like, handful of other games, Rise and whatever it may be. But I was doing FIFA content on there. And that's all I'd ever use it for. And when you're playing FIFA for like 12 hours a day, you don't then want to sit down and play another game. You want to just turn the console off and stare at the wall because your eyes have had enough. But then after, like, I don't know, maybe 3 years, and Game Pass started to become a thing, I moved over to PC and I was doing all my FIFA stuff on PC. So I haven't really ever looked into Game Pass. So I'm sat there Christmas Eve 2022 for the first time perusing the Game Pass catalogue, and wow, do they have a lot of games. This isn't going to be news for most of you who have either seen it or own it and play games on there regularly. Maybe that's how you play the majority of your games, but I never really understood, well, I did understand, but I never really got it, why anyone would ever buy an Xbox Series S, for example, because, or even the Xbox One digital console, is it 1S digital, whatever, that is quite a cheap console, but I never really understood why anyone would want that, because it doesn't have a disc drive. It's very cheap, obviously, which is a plus point, but it doesn't have a disc drive, which I find a little bit difficult to get my head around. And also, if you ever want to buy a game, you have to pay the digital price. You can't shop around, it's there, you have to buy it. And I couldn't quite get my head around it, but when you look at Game Pass and the amount of games on offer, I kind of get it now. I kind of understand why someone would go out and buy a Series S and say, well, I'm only really that bothered about, you know, exclusives. Maybe I'm interested in EA games, Bethesda games and things. Xbox have a lot to offer. I've owned digital games in the past, and I used to buy FIFA every year, digital. I still do, to be honest. Call of Duties and things. So I have bought them in the past. I've always just preferred to have things physical. And having a physical collection for me has always been far more appealing. So many different reasons why. I could pick any game off that shelf now that I've finished playing and take it into CEX or Game and trade it in. Get a voucher, pick up another game that I want, or get money off another game I want. You can't do that with digital. I know people will complain about trade prices, but to be fair, I've always found CEX to be quite fair with trade prices, and sometimes a little bit too generous with trade prices, so long as it's not really a sports game, for example. But with digital games, you can't do that, and you can't display them properly either. Like you can't. I mean, like, you could print it out and stick it on a wall. That's what games. Those are the games I own. But when it comes to a physical collection, it just looks far more impressive, and that's what I really like about it. But by the by, I'm sat there and I'm scrolling through these games, and I'm downloading the odd one. And I noticed that they have a fair few new releases. Hello Neighbor 2, High on Life, for example, is on there. Didn't really want to play either of those games, but it's nice to know that they're there. So I'm downloading a few games here or there. Some of them, Forza 5, for example, Forza Horizon 5. Just downloaded the newest one. Why not? I played a little bit of 4 because I did have the digital code. I played very, very small amounts of that. But I thought I might as well download the new one. So I deleted the old one, downloaded the new one. Haven't played it yet, but it's there ready. I downloaded MLB 2022 because I've always been interested in that game, but not really wanted to pay the full price that the disc version costs. And a few other games as well that I would never normally buy. And that's the beauty of Game Pass. For £1, I can now have a little bit of a taste of these things. Obviously, if it was £1 a month, it would be the best deal ever. That's just for the first month. It's going to cost me $10.99 thereafter. And I know a lot of you will know this already because you'll either be signed up to it, you have been in the past, or you just know because you're in the know. I didn't know. This is all new to me. It's almost like it came out yesterday. I know a lot of people, and I used to be like this. You don't want to go back through the older games. And I say I used to be like this. I used to be like this in the 360 days. I could never imagine going back to a PS2 game or even playing a Mega Drive game ever again. But as you get older, you're chasing nostalgia, which is one of the reasons why the Mega Drive is still one of the best consoles ever made for me, because I loved it growing up and I played a lot of games on it. That's why I have it today, and that's why I'm trying to build out this collection as much as I can, just purely because of that nostalgia trip and I'm chasing that. But also, I actually do sit down and play it now, where I could never imagine doing that 10 years ago. And that's what I like about Game Pass. You have an awful lot of games on there that I can go back and play from the past. For example, and this is a perfect example, and I couldn't believe it when I saw it. Fight Night Champion is on Game Pass. So I've paid £1. Yes, I have to pay full price at some point, but I've paid £1 and I've downloaded Fight Night Champion. And not only have I downloaded it, I recovered the save that I made in 2018. The last time I played this game, and I was on my, 47th playthrough or something, and the disc that I had at the time had damage on it. I bought it secondhand somewhere, probably CEX. I bought it secondhand, and it froze. Would not get past the, I think, third from last fight or something. It was just stuck, and it kept crashing every single time. So I got rid of that game, and that was the end of it. I didn't play it. But I recovered the cloud save and carried on, and I finished it. I beat my baby brother, and then I beat Frost, and that was the end of it. Fantastic story. If you've never played Fight Night Champion, and you're even remotely into boxing or boxing games, you need to play that story. It is brilliant. What's the point in owning the physical if you can just play it digital? I understand that there's a back and forth there, but for me personally, having a physical collection will always trump a digital collection. But it's just the fact that Game Pass is so affordable for those who play games a lot, and they have a massive selection of these things. You go into CEX and you pick up 5 games that they have on Game Pass, and all of a sudden you've spent £30, £40, £50 plus. And yes, you can take them in to trade in, which is the one thing that I absolutely love about having a physical collection. If you ever decide, I don't want this, we did it in the last episode. Rock Band 4 on the PS4. I've got that game, but I don't have the guitar for it. I've been holding out. And then I decided, I'll get it again, it's fine. I'll take the credit now, and I'll use that to get another game that I want. And I used that, spoiler alert, to pick up Resident Evil Village on the PS5, and it was the Steelbook edition. I also used it, I guess, in part to get Pokemon Sword on the Switch, which is a game that is now in my Switch, but I haven't played just yet, but I am waiting to. I was going to play it, and then Game Pass came along, and I kind of forgot about the Switch. But either way, that's my point, though. The physical side of things, I love it. You can take them in, you can trade them in, you can get things you want. You can't do that with digital. And I guess with Game Pass, that doesn't really matter because you can cancel your subscription at any time, and then that's it. You stop paying for it. You don't play those games anymore, but you don't pay for it. I love walking in to video game stores, whether they be little independent stores or big chains, and looking at what they have to offer. Special editions, consoles, games that you've never heard of before, and games that are obviously not on things like Game Pass and the PlayStation equivalent, because there are a lot of games not available on these platforms, and that is obviously the benefit of walking into a video game store. There is one game that I didn't know existed outside of the Switch. A quick Google search would have revealed that yes, it is in fact available on Xbox Game Pass, but that's that one behind me. That is Lonely Mountains Downhill. It is a super rare game, which is a small publisher that publishes very limited runs of indie games, which is what that is. And it's a very expensive game on the Switch. It's £50-60 plus at this point. So I'm browsing Game Pass on Christmas Day, I think, the night of Christmas Day, and I see something out of the corner of my eye, like one of the games on the right-hand side, and it's that. It is Lonely Mountains Downhill. And download now, play now. Oh my days. Yes, couldn't download it quick enough. If you don't know about this game, and this video is now going to turn into an advert for this game, the graphics on this game, in my opinion, they're actually quite impressive, even though they're not realistic at all. They are quite cartoony in a way, but they're stylized. It's a weird way to explain it. Very, very impressive to look at, in my opinion. I like it, although it's very simple. The other thing that's simple about this is everything. There is no music in this game at all. When you're playing, you have the birds. If it's raining, you can hear the rain, you can hear the wind. When you skid around a corner, you hear that skid, you can hear the traction of the wheels, and you can hear the pedals click. It's a very immersive game with regards to sound. You are in, or on rather, that mountain with this guy. The whole point is to get from top to bottom, I would say generally as fast as you can, but without crashing as many times as you can. You're allowed to crash, there are checkpoints, it's fine, but there are going to be certain scenarios where it says don't crash more than 20 times, which sounds a lot. When you start playing this game, it isn't that many times at all, because you will crash and burn a lot. There are jumps, tricky little corners, rocks in places you really don't want them to be. It sounds and looks, when you're watching it, like a very relaxing game. And to be fair, for the first 5-10 minutes, it kind of is relaxing, until you're trying to bomb down this mountain as fast as you possibly can to get to the end to unlock the next trail, or indeed the next mountain. And then you discover why this game is very painful to play sometimes. But it's one of those where I will play it, my thumbs are aching because I'm gripping the controller. I don't think this is a very good Switch game. You would knacker those sticks. But I'm on the Xbox and I'm ragging those sticks around, and I get to the end and it's been so stressful I need to lie down. So I stop playing for a minute, but then as soon as you stop playing, that itch starts to build. I need to get back on this game. And then within 10 minutes, I'm back on it and I'm bombing down that mountain again. It is a fantastic game. Walking into CEX, the chances of me playing this game, or even buying this game, I should say, very, very slim, because it's only available on Switch and it's a super rare title, which costs more than I'd be willing to spend on it. Although saying that, probably am going to get it on the Switch at some point. However, my point is, the amount of games you will download when you get Game Pass compared to the amount of games you would have bought that are included in Game Pass when you walk into CEX is unreal. You won't go into CEX, or at least I won't go into CEX. Maybe you will, I don't know who you are. But I won't go into CEX and just pick up 4 or 5 games off the shelf that cost £7 each, which is generally the price of a game on Game Pass. I've had a look. If you want to buy this game, it's $7.99. If you want to buy this game, it's $7.99. Some of them are obviously, like High on Life is going to be a lot more. Other games, Doom, for example, is going to be a lot less, £2-3 or whatever. But I'm not going to go into CEX and pick 4 games off the shelf that are £7 each that I've never heard of before, and I only have the back of the game to look at. Game Pass, I can download it, I can play it. If I don't like it, I can delete it and never have to think about it again. It didn't cost me anything because it was included. Or if I like it, I may discover a new genre of game that I never knew I liked. I may discover a new series of games that I never knew I liked, and I never would have known, because I never would have gone into a CEX store and bought this game, because it just didn't look like something I wanted to play. The beauty of the two, and having a physical collection but also having a digital collection, I'm seeing the benefits of both. And I would imagine there are a lot of people out there who do what I'm doing, and they collect video games wherever they can, but they also play most of their games digital, or at least a lot of their games digital. And I think that's something that going forward, I may look to do a little bit more. I'm going to merge the two. I'm going to have a physical collection of games that I want to own physically because I really enjoy playing them. They hold a nostalgia sort of trip for me, if you will, or games that I plan to play in the future, but I'm not going to not get digital games. I'm not going to include it in the series, and I'm not going to ever, comment on the games that I own digitally unless I do a digital tour. But when it comes to places like CEX and Game, I love going in and I love looking at everything that they have to offer. Special editions are something that I want to start picking up some of. I only own one right now. I think that's the Killzone 3 helmet. It's a game I've never played, and I own the special edition for it. But because it looks cool and it's gaming related, I own it. But when it comes to digital, you can't have a digital special edition and put that on display. That doesn't make any sense. So that's another reason why physical, for me anyway, will always beat digital. And why places like CEX and Game have to exist, and why I also want a physical collection as well as having a wide selection of digital games to play. The ease of play when you're sat there and I want to bounce around between games. You know, I like to sit there and put 3, 4, 5 hours into Red Dead 2, for example, but sometimes I want to bounce between that game and I want to bounce between Fight Night, and then I want to bounce between NHL 94, for example. I downloaded that yesterday. It was I think it came out on the Mega Drive. I know NHL, it was like 96. Had that when I was a kid and I played it to death. So I downloaded this. It's basically the same game, different music, and I played that for quite a while and unlocked a lot of the achievements on it. I still can't score. It's been 30 years and I still cannot score on that game. It's so difficult, but I really enjoyed myself. And it's a game you can't get physical. It's a game that, yeah, okay, you'd probably buy cheap enough digitally anyway, but now I can just hop in and hop out on Game Pass, and it's not a problem. When it comes to CEX and Game, you can't go in and buy the older copies of Doom and all these little arcade games that they release unless someone puts them out in a compilation, like the Mega Drive collection, for example, on most platforms. So the array of choice for Game Pass is brilliant, and I know PlayStation have their answer to Game Pass, which I'm not hearing great things from, I will say, but maybe I'll go and take a look at that as well and get back to you with my thoughts on it. But I think Game Pass, for the money, at least at the very least, to try it out. Don't do what I did and leave it 10 years before you give it a go. I don't know how long Game Pass has been out for, but I've never touched it. And 4 days ago or something, 3 days ago, was the first time I ever fired it up. And I think for £1 initially, just to see what it's all about, is the best £1 I think I've ever spent. Apart from that one time. The best £1 you'll ever spend is your first month of Game Pass. I wouldn't say I was overwhelmed, but there are a lot of games on there that you will want to play. And maybe you'll look at the library now and think that, not really that many games, don't really want to. But when you have the ability to download any of those games and just try them and then delete them if you don't want them, you will do it, especially if you have a fast internet connection and you can download these games in minutes. It's a godsend. It's fantastic. A lot of people have mentioned it, to be fair to me, in the comment sections of videos, and they've always said, what about Game Pass? Why have you bought that game? This game's available on Game Pass. The reason this is cheap is because it's available on Game Pass. And I understand that. But for me, owning a physical collection will always trump having digital. It just will. Even if I do play a lot of my games digitally now, which I will do going forward, I'm not going to go and buy digital games necessarily. If they're available on like Game of the Month, or they ever come onto Game Pass, or maybe they go down to like £3 or £4, I will probably buy them and I will play them that way, but that doesn't mean I'm never going to own them physical. Fight Night Champion is a prime example, and so is Lonely Mountains as well. That game, I want it physical because I honestly, I adore it. I think it's fantastic. And I've only played a few hours of it, but it's one of those games that I know I will always play for the rest of my life now. That's it. I will always go back to this game. You always go back to 3 or 4 games constantly. Might be a few years. Fight Night, for example, like I said, I haven't played it for 4 years. I didn't need a refresher of the controls. I didn't need to remember where I was in the story. I loaded that save, April 2018, I think it was, the save file. Loaded it up, straight in, watched a cutscene, knew exactly what was happening, knew exactly where I was. Bang, into the ring, and I'm ducking, I'm weaving, my guard is up, and I'm throwing those jabs, and I know exactly what the buttons are, I know exactly how to play the game. You'll always have those games in your life, regardless of what it is. That is going to be one of those games. I want that physical on the shelf. Even if I never touch the cartridge and it's there on my shelf until the day I decide that I need to sell it to buy bread, or the day I die, it will be on that shelf, even if I never play it. And I'll look at it and I'll go, what a game. And I want that for Fight Night Champion. I want that game. There are loads that I want that for. However, Game Pass is an absolute must if you have an Xbox. And I think if you don't have an Xbox and you have a PC, it's probably worth a try as well, because all of these games, I think or most of them at least, are available to play on the PC as well. So yeah, wow. What an experience for someone who has never played or even looked at Game Pass before. And a lot of people are like, this guy. Game Pass has been out for XX number of years, and it's the first time he's ever played it, and he's acting like it's a brand new thing. I get that. I understand it's not brand new, but to me, it is. I think it's fantastic. If you have enjoyed this video, maybe you want to give me your thoughts on Game Pass or the PlayStation side of Game Pass, whatever it's called. Is it PS Extra or something? If you want to let me know what you think of that in the comments, that would be very much appreciated, because I haven't even looked at those games yet. I just know that it exists. Maybe I'll do a little recap and video on there. I think in the future as well, maybe in the next week or two, I'm going to highlight maybe my top 5 or 10 games that are on Game Pass. A lot of them will be games that you are familiar with, but some of them, like this for example, you may not be familiar with. I don't know. So look forward to that. If you haven't enjoyed this video though, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and until the next time, goodbye.